So I don't see Rocky, but let's get started. Okay, I'd like to call to order the school committee meeting of December 21st. You have an agenda before you. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Comments from the public? We're going to do that.
Before you start comments.
Okay, so I will make a motion that we accept the accept the information provided by Sherry Lewis and Martin Engeloff, who are not here today. And they're on the phone because they're ill. Have a motion?
Okay.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Comments from the public? Any other comments? Superintendent's report.
Okay. This past Saturday, the Nantucket Public Schools partnered with Transformative Health Solutions in conjunction with the Massachusetts Department of Health to bring a mobile vaccine clinic to the island community. The team consisted of 10 vaccinators, all were nurses, and they all worked like a well-oiled machine to complete a total of 271 vaccinations. They will be back again on January 8th to administer second doses and boosters, and we're going to try to convince them to do first doses again. And I'm very grateful to Nancy Small, the nurse team, and Nancy is the nurse at NIS. She organized the clinic, and that included picking up the team in her large minivan and providing pizza for them for lunch. So I'm very thankful and very grateful for her. We will be looking into offering another clinic in February or March as well. So new staff. Before I introduce our latest hires, I do want to say that the hiring has been particularly challenging this year. Specialized positions are always hard to fill, so we're really very lucky that we have found 3 talented candidates mid-year. 2 of these candidates decided to move to the island to live and work 30 miles out to sea, so all I can say is thank you. We are thrilled to have Vanda Gomes Okide, our new social worker at NES. Vanda comes with an extensive social work background with experience as an outpatient therapist, emergency services clinician, residence counselor, and foster care case manager in different Massachusetts communities. She holds a master's degree in social work from Simmons University and speaks Portuguese and Cape Verdean Creole. And I know that NES is very happy that she has started with them. So welcome, Vanda.
Is she here?
I don't see her.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. No, Kim is
Okay.
nodding her head. So hopefully we'll give her in person another time. Next, we have Tyler Konopka, our new athletic trainer. Tyler hails from Connecticut with a bachelor's degree in athletic training and health science and is a certified athletic trainer. He is also a combat medic in the U.S. Army Reserve and worked as a head athletic trainer for 4 years before gracing our shores. We are very happy that he is here, but I would imagine that there's probably no one happier than Matt Hunt, who is our new assistant athletic director. He's been doing double duty as athletic trainer and assistant athletic director since August. So, Whaler Nation welcomes you, Tyler. Thank you for coming. He's here.
Welcome.
Yay.
I'm happy to.
Yes, of course. And Diani Martinez Ulloa, sorry, Diani, is a recent Nantucket High School graduate, and the curriculum directors are thrilled to have her assistance and tech-savvy know-how in the day-to-day inner workings of the curriculum office. She has been hired as the ESP for curriculum and technology applications. So we're very happy to have her. Recently, Deanne has been helping the nurses to log in the test and stay data, which turns out to be a very intense amount of paperwork. So thank you so much for coming to our rescue, Deanne. We're so happy to have you. She's here.
Nice.
Student advisory councils. So this year, as one of my district improvement goals, I started a superintendent student advisory council at each school. At the principals and teachers' recommendations, students were chosen from us as a small representative group for the school to meet with me and to share successes, challenges, areas for improvement and change, and any hot-button issues around school climate and culture. So at NES, I have a group of 7 second graders. They are very smart. They pepper me with questions about what a superintendent actually does. And one young man asked me, so if you're the boss of all the principals in all the schools, who is your boss? So that was their first taste of hearing about the school committee. They have grand ideas about special projects that they'd like to do, such as run a whole school morning meeting, read to their kindergarten colleagues, and take a field trip to NIS. At NIS, I have 3 representatives from each class, a very diverse representation. They quickly warmed up to me in my first meeting with them and asked lots of important questions, showing their maturity and willingness to share pros and cons of life at NIS. They are definitely in favor of more recess and no MCAS, but they adore their teachers and the staff. I look forward to working with them on some projects there as well. CPS's advisory council is also a great representative group with students from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. They did not waste any time telling me what they liked and didn't like about the world of CPS, including certain teachers' rules about snack time, phone usage, as well as issues around derogatory language and racist slurs. This group is very perceptive and interested in learning about different points of view. So I have some ideas of what we can do together around advocacy and outreach to peers around diversity and inclusion. So the diversity subcommittee may be involved with them. And finally, the student advisory at the high school has only met once, but they are also not afraid to bring up issues of importance to them, such as personal computer usage, how remote learning was really less than ideal for learning, the challenges of this school year, which feels a little bit like limbo for many of them, and even their intuitions around their peers and their teachers' health and well-being. I look forward to our next meeting with them with each of these groups, because they are really wonderful representatives, all willing and ready to dedicate some time and themselves to making Nantucket Public Schools better for all students. So, there we go.
Any questions? Esmeralda?
No questions.
Laura?
No questions.
I find it interesting and very courageous that your CPS cohort would talk about racial slurs.
Yes.
And I think that that's obviously something that's very important to all of us.
Yes.
So I would encourage Esmeralda and Rocky to get involved somehow with that, to see how we can keep that conversation going and make some changes. So thank you, Beth, for
Sure.
that.
Thank you.
Rocky?
First and foremost, I apologize. There was parking up front, but we badgered and wreck out back. Didn't work in some of the doors, we were trying to come in. Had to go all the way around, so that's why I'm late, but I have no questions, but that's why I'm late. Just saying.
Thank you very much.
We badgered work at all doors though, right?
Presentations and discussions of issues of interest to the committee. The chairman's prerogative, I'm moving the Veritas update to number 1, or A, so that they'll write nice things about the school community.
Can go over there.
So, this has been our first year as editors on staff, and it's also been the first year that Veritas has been back after kind of a 2-year not break, because we were still putting out issues, but we weren't putting out issues on paper, and we were doing it all from home. So it's been good to get back into the Veritas room. And I just wanted to share some numbers about how we've been doing this year.
Before you go on, would you mind introducing yourselves?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Does that microphone work?
It does for the TV.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it doesn't work.
No.
I can't hear what you're saying, to be honest.
Mine,
Just speak up a little
Yeah.
bit.
I can speak louder.
The speakers in the back of the room work, so if you speak directly to it.
My name is Sarah Swenson. I'm co-editor-in-chief with McLean Willett, who's not here because she's at a sports game. That was prior commitment, and
I'm Anna Popnikolova. I'm assistant editor-in-chief, and I'll be editor-in-chief next year on staff.
So this year we've averaged about 25 writers and staff for each issue. We've put out 3 issues so far. This one just came out today. I have some up there that I can hand out when I go back to my seat, or I can just leave at the top. At the first issue was 12 pages, and we've progressed to 16 because we just had so much input from students that we had to grow it, and we're expecting this issue 4 to have 20 pages. Because of the high interest, especially in photography from students, we've added a section that's called NHS on Film. That's just a page of photos from like the past month that we've covered. We've also had more entertainment writers than ever, poetry and short stories and album reviews. We've had so far this year 3,800 approximately views on articles on the website. And we also added a new position to staff, which was Assistant Finance Director, Ben Killian, who's obviously, and that was partially to encourage underclassmen to join staff and get involved because we're kind of a junior heavy group this year. And recently, for this issue, we increased our number of papers from 250 to 300 because the last issue just like flew out and we didn't have any more to put back in the stands. So.
And what's happened this year with other news organizations on island, like the Inky and the Current, we've had 2 of our articles so far like quoted or referenced or like followed up by with those organizations, and a lot of students have had like offers to write, and there have been some like collaborations going on where Veritas student work has been going into like the Current and the Inky, so that'll be kind of an exciting future thing for our writers.
Questions, Rocky?
Jason, wasn't he used to work with paper, right?
Yeah. It wasn't Jason, it was Alicia, who's his wife, Alicia Graziade, used to be the teacher advisor for Veritas, but now it's Ms. Martineau.
Okay. Thank you.
No
Great
questions.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Any questions?
No
questions.
Wait, before you run off. We'll
No,
have
my,
questions.
my one question was, so there, it's Ms. Martineau and that's it? You have one advisor? One is,
So Ms. Martineau has been the teacher advisor for I don't know how many years, but a while at the high school, and she's our one advisor. Our room's actually right next to her room.
oh, convenient, perfect. Well, you do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pauline?
Yep, I just have a question. I'm interested in knowing what the process is on how you decide on the articles for each edition, and can you just talk through that a little bit?
So it's really kind of freeform. Like I usually start the article list, and I just put down anything that I know that's happening in the next month or so, and then there's 3 articles every issue that are an editorial by me, McLean, and Anna, and then there's an entertainment section, and basically we just share it we have a Schoology groups page, where everyone who's involved with the paper is on that page, and we share the Google Doc, and any student can add any article they want to write about. There's some level of monitoring where we don't put in stuff that's like directly offensive or, mean, or we make sure that editorial opinion stuff stays in the editorial opinion section, but it's pretty much any student who wants to add something can add their article.
And are you looking to increase your advertising? You have advertising, right? Yep. So are you looking to increase it, or how would somebody be able to come forth and put an ad in the paper?
So anybody who wants to put an ad in the paper can email. I don't have the advertising email memorized, but they can
That's okay.
email the Veritas email, which is veritas.nhs@gmail.com. We currently have 3 advertisers in the last paper, and we think it's going to increase because for the next issue, because our finance director and assistant finance director have been like sending emails to local businesses to try to recruit more people, because we're actually looking, I don't know why I didn't include this, but we're looking to make a purchase for the next issue, which is to buy the updated version of Cork, which is our editing software, because currently we only have it on 2 computers, which is not convenient when it comes to layout. So, yeah, and that's
How much does that cost, roughly, do you know?
thousands,
Thousands?
but I'm not sure exactly how much.
Don't be afraid, she's asking.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of me ever, but,
Don't be afraid, she's asking.
okay. All right, so probably a couple of thousand for,
Yes.
okay, great. And you guys do a fabulous job. I've got my copy, wherever it is, I picked it up, but I love reading it every time it comes out, so congratulations.
Before we do you want to mention the language section?
Oh, yeah, so something I've been working on this year is putting together a language section. I call it like the language spread, and anyone who's looked at the first issue of the year will see the spread, and basically I think I got 6 or 7 articles, and they're all in different languages. So I have articles in Japanese, Spanish, Bulgarian, I had one in Thai, Latin, you know, Mr. Cawthron, and they're written also in like each language's alphabet, obviously, and they include either translations or like summaries of what that student or teacher is writing about. And I just wanted to include like as many different languages as I could, because I think they're really pretty. And I think it adds a lot to kind of see all that kind of diversity in the paper. And this is something that will be continuing throughout the year. And yeah, I'm very excited.
I think she's doing that diversity meeting.
Yeah.
I go back to when Pam Mickelson really got Veritas started. And you guys, I've seen the paper progress and develop and expand, and really, it's a wonderful thing that you're doing. You know, sometimes you hit sore spots, but I think that's the job of people that are involved in journalism, so I congratulate you. And you can always say how the school committee moved you up so you didn't have to wait. So, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you
Great
so
job,
much.
great presentation.
Awesome job.
Okay, budget development, special services.
Hey, Deb.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here tonight to talk a little bit about what Special Services is looking for in this year's, our upcoming budget. And then just as a reminder to everyone that Special Services currently comprises 22% of the school year 21-22 school committee budget. And of that, within that budget, Special Services payroll is 85% of our budget. I came to you last year, being relatively new to the position, and asked for one position, which was our Special Services interpreter and translator, Spanish language interpreter and translator. I wanted to just reaffirm my gratitude to all of you for approving that. Ceci Gutierrez, has turned to be such an incredible asset to not only the Special Services Department, but the district. I come before you tonight with 2.5 positions, the 2.5 FTE. And the first one, in terms of our priority for the department, is a full-time 1.0 school psychologist. And all of the positions that I am looking at for the department for next year are based on compliance and requirements, as well as keeping in harmony with the district focus on keeping students at the center of everything that we do. So in looking at the school psychologist, the NASP, which is the National Association of School Principals, as well as the Massachusetts Association for School Committees, recommends in their guidance that school psychologists should be assigned the student ratio as 1 school psychologist for every 500 students. As you are probably aware, Nantucket Public Schools currently employs 2 full-time school psychologists, and our enrollment is just under 1,700 students. So We are looking at, we also have a team chairperson who does bilingual psychological evaluations in Spanish, but that is for a stipend that's done outside of the school day. Currently, our 2 school psychologists and bilingual psychologists have conducted over 100 evaluations between initial and 3-year reevaluations this year. There is a distinct disparity between the NIS caseloads and CPS NHS caseloads, and so the 3rd school psychologist would be considered district-based with primary responsibility for conducting evals at CPS and NHS. And that comes down to timing of their IEPs in terms of when they would be evaluated. The second position that we're seeking is a 2nd district BCBA, Board Certified Behavior Analyst. Currently, the district has 1 BCBA, and that person has a caseload of 28 students. She provides direct consultation and service development for students in our highest needs programs. As we continue to emerge from the pandemic, the need for behavioral analysis and plan implementation has increased, and we've determined that our current BCBA cannot meet this demand. In one of my presentations last year, I did present the fact that we had a team from Boston of behavior analysts that came to the district to analyze our programs, and one of the recommendations from that visit was that the district needed an additional BCBA. And again, the focus area for this BCBA would be helping teachers to support students in need of behavior plans, doing functional behavioral analysis, providing crisis interventions, supporting student discipline, and working closely with parents and children to improve behaviors for maintaining safety in our schools. The final position is something that is rather commonplace in many districts, and the need in Nantucket is growing pretty quickly. And it's a transition program specialist that would be focused at NHS. However, it starts with students as soon as they turn 14. Transition program planning begins for students at the age of 14. But the coordinator would be responsible for serving as a liaison for interagency collaboration, completion of referral paperwork for Chapter 688 or adult services, and assisting the team chair at CPS and NHS to develop effective transition plans for students. We need to expand and increase our vocational employment opportunities for students who are enrolled in our postgraduate program, and those are kids ages 18 to 22. And the teacher in our program currently is responsible for coordinating these opportunities, and that's a heavy load to be able to teach our students as well as finding those opportunities. There are 10 students that are in the 18 to 22-year-old program, and the number will increase by about 1.5 times over the next year. I did include information in my summary that was forwarded to you also about what we're considering that would be part with other budgets or other within the district. And in large demand from our special education liaisons, who are our school-based specialists, teachers who oversee IEP development, is looking at a new IEP program. Currently, we utilize the IEP component within Aspen by Follett Corporation. And I allocated grant money this year to have teachers investigate a new program that would allow us to become more compliant, to allow parents to be able to sign IEPs online, and to be able to access their child's IEP at any time. And that's something that I think that would benefit. But again, that's not a budget request. That's just something I wanted to let you know that we were doing that would impact what's happening with other departments. And that's it from special services. Do you have any questions?
Rocky?
No, sir.
No questions.
I am just curious about how parents interact with the IEP at this point. Is it just a paper copy and they?
Correct. So when a meeting is held, an IEP is developed, I review and read all IEPs before they go out to make sure that they're saying what we're saying and the district can commit to what we're saying. Then we translate the ones that are required for translation. And again, with the addition of our bilingual specialist in our office, parents are now getting the translated reports before the meeting, which had never happened before, which is amazing. For other languages than Spanish, we do have to send them out to Bay State interpreters. But the new IEP system, I wanted to add as well, also has the feature for the languages that we identify. Teachers can translate them as they're writing them. It's just literally a click of the button, and you can get an IEP in Portuguese, one in Bulgarian, however it is that we need to do. But when they come. We are now, with the onset of COVID, we have gotten permission from parents to be able to electronically transmit them, which does get a faster turnaround. But for those parents that choose to still have them mailed, we can go upwards of 2.5 weeks before a parent receives their IEP. And that is out of compliance with the fact that an IEP has to be written within 5 days after a meeting. Parent has 30 days to sign it, and sometimes they're not getting it until probably 17 to 20 days after the meeting, which is what we're looking at in terms of the new system.
Right. That's great. Thank you.
Pauline?
Thank you, Tim. This is not in any way meant to sound like I'm trying to suggest you add more to your budget or more positions, but I just want to sort of highlight when you use the word compliance to bring in the new psychologist. Do you, and this might be an unfair question, but bringing in that third person, will that resolve and help all of the concerns and issues that we are being faced district-wide? Or is it something that maybe in another year you'll come back and say, you know what, we really need 4 or 5? I just,
So that's a really good question, Pauline, and what I can say right now is that a third school psychologist is gonna make a tremendous difference based on the fact that with kids coming back out of the pandemic, we're getting a significant influx of new students to the district, that to be able to evaluate them efficiently, the caseload is overwhelming right now. And to add that person on, I am working with, because it hasn't been done in a while, I'm working with the school psychologist and NTA to revise the job description about what it is that we're actually asking our psychologists to do, because right now it's just straight evaluations. With the additional person, we might be able to have that flexibility that they do a little bit more than just that. I did add in the notes that you received that we also, again, service about 10 private school students from New School and Lighthouse. And we also, our school psychologists, which I guess have never done, has been done before, required child find clinics that we have. It used to be someone from a private school would reach out to us, we would evaluate them. We're now doing screenings, which the school psychologists are involved in, as well as related services providers. And we're giving teachers, parents, and students direct intervention to help kids before having to go to the IEP process. So they're also doing that on top of everything else. So I can't say, I mean, sure, I'd take 5. I'm not, that, I would never say that I wouldn't. But the third person will make an exceptional difference in being able to assist. Because again, if you think about within the realm of social emotional learning, which I've talked about this a lot, with our social workers, with our counselors, and the school psychologists, everybody has a defined role, but they're getting very crossed at this point based on the level of needs that kids have. And we'd like to kind of create a little bit more definition so the social worker can do that work, and the counselor can do their work, and the school psychologist can do theirs.
right. Thank you. The Bcba position coming in full-time, having heard most recently about the challenges that NES is facing, do you see where that position would mostly be in the lower grades, or?
What we're seeing right now in terms of need arising, it would probably be NES with probably CPS as a close second, to be able to share it across. So it would be a district-based position, but what I have had in conversations with principals in admin teams, and my own experiences in working with the teachers and the kids, is that we need someone to be able to provide direct behavioral intervention when it's happening. Right now, teachers are holding many roles, administrators are holding many roles to try to do that. And so when we ask, a common request is behavioral observation or a behavioral analysis, or functional behavior analysis, which takes time. You have to conduct observations and do all the paperwork that's gone with that, and someone that's dedicated just to doing that can also make a huge difference. I mean, I'm in the process of doing a couple FBAs myself right now, because to be able to provide direct support to teachers.
Right. So they wouldn't necessarily be working directly in the student support center?
They
Oh,
could.
they could.
They
but-
could, sure. And that, it really comes down to, and I've had the conversation with a couple principals about how we would schedule it out, but we need someone on demand. Like, we need to be able to have someone that can come in and say, this is what we're doing. And I don't wanna say it's necessarily a crisis intervention, but it's preventing that from happening. It's
Right,
addressing
yeah.
what happens and what we need to look at, because our kids that are in, significant crisis, we have other support to, personnel to be able to support them directly. This is more of a long-term in trying to figure out why a child is behaving in the way that they are. And functional behavioral analysis and behavior analysis in general is a very defined process that someone who's trained could do that very well and really help kids in the process.
Thank you. And then just lastly, do we have a transition service person part-time already? This would just be expanded? For some reason, I thought we hired somebody last year to come in and do the transition for the students 14 through 22. But no, you're looking at me like no, so I
I'd
guess
like to
we
know who
did-
that person
I can
is.
swear that you even introduced her one night to us.
No.
Oh, I'm gonna have to ask you who
Yeah.
that was.
If
Okay.
that person's been hanging around, I'd love to.
Stand up wherever you are.
Right.
Okay,
who
well,
are
I'm
you?
thrilled that you've got it in your
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah.
That's great.
And again, with the transition specialist, there is so much work that needs to be done with especially our 18 to 22 population about effectively training to have them ready to either be employed or what they're doing. We've established a lot of connections this year with some of the Cape agencies, but my premise has been since I moved here is having kids in Nantucket get to stay in Nantucket if they want to live here. And how do we best support them to be able to do that? And there's a lot of work that has to be done. And the transition specialist does have has a identified specific certification through DESE and to be able to find that person. So if approved, I have the job description all ready to go.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
All right,
Thank
you're welcome.
you.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Through the chair, can I ask one other question? You mentioned, service you provide, we deal with the new school and other schools other than that. So how does our district work with them, and how does that,
In terms of providing services or identifying need for services?
yeah, so the new school wants to use our district,
Yep, so
how does that work?
sure. So we receive
And
allocated.
What is that, what schools are they in, what we-
Sure. So within the concept of equitable share, proportionate share, we get allocated money through the state to provide services. Kids who live in Nantucket, no matter where they go to school, are entitled to special education services if they qualify. So we service students from New School and the Lighthouse School. They come to the school at designated times, so we have a majority of our kids in private school that get serviced at NIS. We have a couple at NES, we have one at CPS, and they receive services from our providers, primarily reading, speech, OT, and then they go back to their school day at their school. But we receive allocations to provide that service for them.
And how do they get how do they get there?
So right now, because of the transportation issue that we're providing on the island, I've coordinated so that parents can get reimbursed for mileage to be able to bring their student to school and then back to school. And for some of our families, it's a good distance back and forth. And so they get reimbursed on a monthly basis as a result. At one time, we did have a bus to be able to bring them back and forth, but we're working on making sure we can get our kids on buses now.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Next, English Learner Services.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, Patty.
So,
This is my first time presenting at Nantucket School Committee as far as the budget goes. So I will ask for a little bit of grace as I go through this, but let's give it a shot. So currently, we have about 15% who are English language learners. And the interesting thing is, from the last presentation I gave, we have about 41.5% of our families on Nantucket that are speaking more than one language in their household. And the budget for English language learning is 5% of the total budget for Nantucket. Most of that is made up of payroll, with some things going to technology and some supplies and professional development. I'm going to stand before the school committee today and ask for another half of ELL teacher, because as of today, we are not meeting minimum recommended minutes of instruction for English language learners at NES. We have been having trouble filling the staffing position that was empty from last year. And even with that, we will not be able to meet the recommended minutes for English language learners for this year. So with this half position, my hope is that we will be able to arrange a schedule at NES that will allow that to happen. Oh, and the second thing is, also requesting just a small amount, kind of seed money, I guess, to help give remediation to English language learners in the district outside of school day. So there's a lot of teachers interested in having students work after school. I know the Boys and Girls Club is there, and they've already reached out, and we've been working with developing a relationship with the Boys and Girls Club, as well as the Historical Society. So we will be kind of reaching out into the community, using the seed money, and trying to work on getting our youngest students involved in working on their homework before they go to the Boys and Girls Club, and then extending that work at the Boys and Girls Club.
It wasn't legible, so I just left the financials as a,
No, that's okay. Yeah. I believe it's about $4,200 for the year. Yep, 4206. Nope, we're good.
Esmeralda?
No questions.
Laura?
I have a question. Oh, I'm curious about what the partnership with the Nantucket Historical Association would look like. What are you envisioning?
Well, I've met a woman there that is into the, it's kind of funny actually, but she's into teaching weaving. And she was developing a way of interacting with younger students and engaging them in weaving. And lo and behold, I was working on reading like real books and getting books in kids' hands and listening to it auditorily and getting some guest readers and kind of developing a program. And I had already been working on this with Maureen Russett, and she was working individually on getting bookmarks from the Historical Society. So we kind of thought, oh, let's merge it together, and the kids can make a bookmark, listen to a story, and take a book home. So that's what we're kind of working on. Tentatively, it's called the Leo Project, but I'm really not ready to launch it yet.
Thank you. That sounds great.
Good questions, thank you.
Rocky?
Yes, I have one question. You mentioned the $4,200 that you're looking for the after-school programs. How would that be dispersed, and how would you go about doing that?
Well, mostly it would be for teachers' salaries to extend their time outside of the school day, so that they can stay with the students, work with them
So
more.
that would go through the town payroll, or how would that work?
It would go through the budget, the ELL budget. The students would get, the teachers would get an additional pay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Technology.
Thank you.
I'd like to take a moment, Jen Erickson, Director of Technology. I'd like to take a moment to show you my pretty pictures. Because some of the stuff that we were able to accomplish with ESSER funding was to get iPads for all students in pre-K, K, and first grade, which freed up Chromebooks for the second graders. We also were able to get new Chromebooks for the third graders as part of the ESSER funds. So this is all outside of the budget, but does affect the inventory. We also were able to get, because it freed up money within my budget, you can see in the upper right, we were able to replace the Mac lab, which was 5 years old. So at the high school, they have a new Mac lab. In the lower left corner, you can see one of the new line panels that was also part of capital from last year that we were able to complete. One of this panel in particular is on a mount that allows it to turn into a tabletop so that 4 students can work on it simultaneously. So I just wanted to kind of shed some light. There's my operating budget, and then there was what we've been able to do with the ESSER funding. The tech budget has been 3% of the total budget for as long as I've been around. And the salaries this year, with the additional position you'll see in a minute, are going to go up nominally. I think last year it was 50%, and it's going up to 56% as a portion of the budget. What I'm requesting is that we get an educational technology specialist. What happened with COVID was everybody went out on March 13th, and the companies that serve educational software said, oh, we're going to help. So we're going to offer all our software for free. And the teachers saw this as an opportunity to make their lives easier trying to teach remotely and trying to find tools that they could use to teach remotely. And it was all free, right? So then we get to September of 2020, and now they're like, well, the free version only has 2 features. You were used to having all 10 features. If you want all 10 features, you're going to have to pay for it. So now we're in the situation where we had a lot of teachers wanting all this disparate software. It was really unmanageable, and we were lucky enough to have our curriculum coordinators start, and we were able to start working on funneling these things so that the software and the apps were being brought in as part of the curriculum. Okay? That's in purchasing it, which I did some. Central office does some, and the curriculum budget, they now have a budget for doing some of this. So we pay for it, we activate it, we try to sync it with Google, as many of you are aware, and the teachers are like, okay, now what do we do with it? And there's no one around to explain to them how to use it properly, how to help the students use it and the parents, and how to incorporate it into their curriculum. And then we throw Schoology at them. So you want to be able to take these things, find them, and find how you incorporate that tool into Schoology to make it useful for the classroom so that you streamline things. Schoology has been an amazing resource so that the parents can go in and monitor what's going on with the kids. So that explains the educational technology. Dire need. Beth and I have talked a lot about it. It makes sense to have it under the tech budget because so much of the other stuff we do is that buying it, getting it installed or working, and then documenting how it's working, and then working with that new position so that we can roll it out more elegantly with the teachers and the students. The second piece that I'm asking for is an increase to $20,000 on my tech seasonal salaries line item. So my staff right now is myself and my database coordinator, and I have one full-time person who works year-round. There are 3 other positions that are 10-month positions. As you know, we have almost 1,700 students, we have hundreds of teachers, and we have all of these devices, many, many classrooms, a very extensive network, almost 200 access points to get on the wireless. I have one hardware person to do that in the summer, one full-time person that can work on that stuff in the summer, and he resigned last month. So we are going to be hiring someone soon. You can imagine what the training is going to be like for that one person. And then we backfill that seasonal salary. With the seasonal salaries, I'm able to backfill by either hiring back my 10-month employees for some number of hours over the summer and hiring my Nantuckies, which have been invaluable. The Nantuckies are my
What are those?
Nantuckies are my program that we have this past summer we had 3 student interns, paid interns, and I literally threw over 2,000 Chromebooks at them, and they were down at NIS. They were working pretty independently, and they were repairing Chromebooks, identifying what we needed to do to make the Chromebooks work for the next school year, getting them reorganized for the new rosters, and getting them into place in carts, rewiring carts, all of that stuff. An invaluable program. So what's been happening the last few years, though, is I did request a few years ago to have an overtime budget for the amount of times that we have emergencies or something, where the techs end up working late into the night to try to get stuff back up and running when we have a crisis. So I was given the overtime line item, but almost every year since then, we have eaten most of that up with the seasonal salaries. So that's why I'd like to increase the seasonal salaries by $10,000 to get it up to 20. And the impact on the budget, it will look, so we're bringing the FTEs to 5.3. And that's it. Any questions?
Rocky?
I think that, I can't even imagine how much work that actually is. And especially since, over COVID, when it became even more techy. You have my percent, you have my 100% behind you. You have my vote.
I'd just say it's all great, fabulous. I do have a curiosity question.
Yes.
Tabletop Mount Lab, what is it for? What can they do on this?
So if they were working on a project together, imagine they're collaborating. You see students working in like a little pod, but they're able to actually be working on their own, like each one of their quarter piece of the panel is a computer that they're working on next to the others. So kind of similar if you've ever worked on a Google Doc where you've got 5 people at once and you're all making
Definitely.
changes to stuff, they would be able to not only be face-to-face working on
So
something, but they could do
simultaneously
it that
working
way.
together all.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other piece of it, which was kind of interesting, and I personally would love to see something like this again, is once upon a time we had an esports program. And we're not doing it right now. It's COVID just makes it kind of impossible. But if we were to have that kind of program again, they would actually be playing with other students somewhere in the world or in the country. I think esports was based in the United States. And they would be able to, as a team, instead of being lined up in a row and they're all on a team trying to help each other, they would be able to face each other around a device like that.
Thank you.
So would the educational technology person, is that salary included in the 72,000, or that's another
That's the estimated salary
for that
person.
individual? And
Yes.
what would they look like? I mean, it seems like a very specific, we've been talking a lot about all of this,
Yeah.
but what would the ideal candidate look like?
Maybe having a degree and/or master's with computer science or something like that. And/or, and these guys are all aware, I'm a firm believer, you don't have to have a degree to get into tech. So someone with a lot of experience. And then the other side of it is they have to be able to teach, and they have to be able to be patient, and they have to be able to listen to the needs of their audience. So that's where I have a great, wonderful staff of geeks, but they're not necessarily really user-friendly, patient, be able to stand in front of a classroom and teach to both teachers and students and administrators, and teach them how to use the software effectively. They'd also be working directly with the curriculum coordinators to make sure that the software that we're using is right in sync with how the curriculum is lining up. So it's all kind of dovetailing together.
So you would then utilize a professional development day for that individual to come in and maybe give?
Professional development days would be days when they're interacting with the staff. They would be available to help the staff at all times with any of the apps. I mean, right now, we're maintaining close to 40 different pieces of software and apps that the teachers in various schools are using every single day. So to have someone available that would be able to help or just, work with maybe the fourth grade team or something and find out, okay, how did you use this most effectively? And then take that back, turn it into, I'm a big fan of cheat sheets and, that kind of documentation. Set up a group or something in Schoology so that there's a resource there, and then roll it back out to the teachers on that team after it's been approved, that kind of thing.
Do you have any
So-
candidates?
No.
Oh.
Well, no.
Not yet, not yet.
It
Thank
won't be
you.
advertised, of course, until late June or July, so
Right,
we'll see.
right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Pauline?
Yep, thanks, Tim. So to be clear, the position in the budget request here is in addition to replacing the CPS tech
Yes,
person, yeah.
yes.
So you're currently advertising or interviewing for that position?
We've already hired someone.
you
They're
have?
starting on January 3rd.
Excellent.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Congratulations. I've said it before and I will say it again, I think you and your team are our unsung heroes. I think that you work tirelessly, and it's almost like nobody really thinks about the tech department until something goes wrong, and then everybody needs it fixed now, right, or yesterday. And all my experience of working in the school with your staff, they've always been polite and patient, and they're a very impressive team that you lead. But going back to the COVID, I mean, just, gosh, you guys work nonstop getting everybody set up within minutes of notification. So kudos to you for doing that. And I absolutely would give anything that you ask, because you guys are, so valuable, and you do such a great job. So thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay, now I have a favor to ask. I need to call Sherry. I'm gonna conference her in on the phone, and I'm going to start a video. Beth, if you wouldn't mind switching that over, and, I can start that while I call her. Her video is about 6 minutes long, and I think you guys can just turn to see it.
If I may, it's the same as what you see here.
Oh, come on. And of course, it's not cooperative.
Call the tech department.
It was working fine before. apologize, I'm gonna have to reload it, so.
Okay, see you next meeting.
Good evening, my name is Sherry Lewis, and I am the new coordinator of Student Support Services and Social Emotional Learning. Social emotional learning is a behavioral framework that develops and reinforces skills that impact academic and life success. And Nantucket Public Schools has based all of their social emotional learning curriculum on the CASTLE model, which features 5 categories: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. So self-awareness is the ability to identify emotions, accurate self-awareness, the ability to recognize strengths, and self-confidence. Self-management is impulse control, stress management, self-discipline, self-motivation, goal setting, and organizational skills. Social awareness is empathy, the appreciation of diversity, respect for others, and the ability to look at things from a different perspective. Relationship skills involves good communication skills, social engagement, relationship building, and the ability to work as a team. And then responsible decision-making is the ability to identify and solve problems, analyze and evaluate situations, reflect, and understand that everyone has an ethical responsibility. Skills that are necessary to be a good member in the community, as well as to have success in the workforce later in life. The SEL curriculum in grades K through 5 is delivered using a program called Second Step, and it's available to counselors both digitally as well as in classroom kits. So there are actual hands-on tools that the kids can use. This is a sample model that one of the counselors used in delivering their SEL curriculum lesson. This is what their playlist, the beginning of their playlist looked like, where you could see they were talking about complex feelings and understanding perspectives. So this lesson was designed to support social awareness. The counselors meet with each class in every grade 1 time a week for approximately 50 minutes, and lessons are scaffolded and build upon one another, supporting the learning objectives. The SEL curriculum in grades 6 through 8 is the Trails to Wellness program, which they just started this year. The students receive the SEL instruction during their advisory block by their advisory teacher. There are 20 lessons, approximately 30 minutes in length. Those lessons can also be broken down into 15-minute lessons, depending on what the advisors want to do. And those are delivered throughout the school year. The advisors are supported by school counselors and building administrators as needed, depending on what their level of comfort is. At the high school, in January, we will be doing a school-wide assembly for students in grades 9 through 12, and it is hosted by J.C. Pohl, who is with Teen Truth, and his presentation will focus on the 5 categories of social emotional learning. Following the assemblies, 24 students in grade 11 will be trained as coaches. And these students, coaches, will go into 9th grade classrooms where they will complete activities with students focused on SEL. There are 20 lessons that these student coaches will deliver, and the lessons will take 20 minutes each. The training will take place in January with the goal of starting the SEL program for students in grades 9 in February. And the Devereaux Student Strength Assessment is a tool that we are using in all of the schools. It is a screener, and it helps us identify areas of need that students have, and it's based on the 5 CASTLE competencies. We started using DESA to identify students who are in need of support and also to track the effectiveness of our SEL program learning. In addition, it helps to identify any unaddressed areas of need. We use the DESA 3 times a year, the fall, the winter, and spring. The DESA mini screener consists of about 8 questions, and then the DESA full screener, which is much lengthier, consists of 72 questions, and it's only completed for students who are on the cusp of or fall in the needs category. Once we have the DESA data, counselors are using the data to identify students who are in need of support, and those students are receiving the support they need through individual and group counseling. Teachers also have access to Aperture resources where they can implement SEL strategies in the classroom. Counseling staff are working on creating a friendly SEL toolbox for teachers to use that reinforces the SEL lessons that students are receiving through either their SEL instruction in the classroom or in their SEL instruction that they're receiving through advisories. And so we are very happy that this is the first year that SEL has been delivered live and in person in most schools. By the end of the year, it will be live and in person in all schools once we get the program up and running at the high school. We're still learning and growing, which definitely means we're progressing. And it's great that we have DESA to measure the effectiveness of the programs that we have in place. Are there any questions, concerns, or feedback?
Rocky?
I have no questions.
I do have a question. Sorry, I wrote it down. The SEL curriculum, you mentioned that you're gonna be choosing 24 students in grade 11. How will you go about choosing those students? Are they volunteer positions, or are you reaching out to them?
Can you hear us, Sherry?
Yeah, so I think what the question was is how are we selecting the 11th grade?
Yes,
students?
please.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the high school administration and counseling staff at the high school have gone through the 11th grade rosters and have met with students, explained the programming to them, and asked if they would be interested. The criteria from the Teen Truth program are students who have untapped leadership skills. So we're not looking at, students that are already in leadership positions. We're not looking at captains, presidents, even, students who are constantly making the honor roll. We're looking for the students that are basically see students who, as I said, have just untapped leadership skills.
Okay. So you've started this process already?
Yes, the process has begun.
Okay. Thank you.
Laura?
And just to follow up to Esmeralda's question, so what does the training for these students look like? What's the length of time that they spend in training? And if you can speak a little bit about that.
So this is very new. It's a pilot program for Nantucket Public Schools, but Bcba has been doing this with schools across the country. The training is approximately 2 hours in length, and then there will be adults supporting this. I will be one of the people supporting the coaching program and meeting with the students regularly to help them practice their skills before they enter the classroom. And there will be 2 counselors working with me at the high school in support of this program.
Great, thank you.
Yep, Sherry, just following still on that same path. What class will they be going in? Is it health or gym that they'll be going into the 9th grade?
They'll be going in through advisory.
Oh, advisory, okay.
Right, they'll be going in through advisory every other week. So that the week off, they have time to prepare, and then they'll go in the following week. So there is no after school time necessary. It's all the training is done during advisory, and then they'll also be meeting with students during advisory.
Gotcha, okay. And then just one last question, Sherry. Are you, is it you that trains the teachers? I heard, as I understand, that the SEL curriculum is being taught through the classroom teachers. Are you holding the trainings, or what's the support with the classroom teacher and this program?
So at the high school level, nothing is being done by classroom teachers. Everything is being implemented through advisory.
Okay, so everything, the whole social emotional curriculum is done through advisory. What about, it's not NES and NIS?
In NES and NIS, it's being implemented by the counseling staff. So the school counselors are going into classrooms in grades K through 5. In grades 6 through 8, it's being done through the advisory. And then in grade 9, it'll be done through the advisories as well. And then in next year, in 2022, 2023, we'll train juniors again, which will be this year's sophomore class, the class of 2024, and they'll implement the SEL program with the rising freshmen. So that next year at the high school, all 4 grade levels, for the most part, will be tapped into SEL curriculum.
Gotcha. Okay, and you're the trainer for this program?
We're going to have J.C. Cole come in and do the training again with next year's juniors, but I will be there to support the program and the training. So the initial training is the 2-hour training that will take place on January 13th. And as Team Truth, J.C. Cole leaves us with all of the materials that we need, and then we work with our students. I will work with the students along with some counselors at the high school to implement the program.
Okay, thank you, Sherry.
Sure.
Sherry, will we, at the end of the school year, get a report on how this is going?
Absolutely. I can't wait to tell you how it's going, because I think we're going to see some really good success.
Okay. Any other
And
questions?
if it doesn't go well, then I'm looking for feedback so that we can make it better.
Catherine, any questions?
I have a question. Is this program implemented to a lot of other high schools? Like, is this a popular program, or is this like a new program that they're introducing?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that question.
My question was, is this program popular in many other schools? Like, have a lot of other schools have implemented this like curriculum into like students?
Yes, there are a lot of other schools that have implemented it and are in the process of implementing it. And the reason why it is so popular is because it builds culture within the school. So imagine 11th graders now talking to 9th graders who are typically intimidated by the upperclassmen. So it really builds a stronger school community, and that is why this program is so successful, and I think that's why we're also going to find success here in Nantucket.
Okay, thank you very much, Sherry.
Sure.
Okay, moving on, committee discussion and votes to be taken. A vote to approve the donation from Nantucket Radio LLC to NHS CPS Athletics Program for sports equipment and participation fees in the amount of $3,000.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A vote to approve the donation from Dreadlock Holidays, Inc. to CPS for WCPS News Network Club, CPS newspaper in the amount of $200.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
December 7th, 2021 meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Transfers and invoices.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on, subcommittee work group. Diversity, have you guys met yet?
That's not on here.
I know.
We did.
Yes,
If
we
I'm-
did. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
if I may
Oh,
through
you-
the chair.
I'm glad
Sure.
you didn't speak, and you told me, you invited, I'm speaking, but go ahead.
We did meet on December 8th. We got the chance to meet with Kamal McCarthy, the DEI director, and he gave us great ideas. Since the subcommittee is a diversity subcommittee, it's a brand, well, it got implemented last year but never really acted on. So we are brand new to this. Rocky did some research, and there's really nothing out there. So we are working with coming up with a mission statement, organizing our thoughts and ideas, early stages of what our mission statement will be and core values. And right now, we're just really gathering information. We came up with some possible ideas of collecting qualitative data from
And
seniors.
as you said, data is the rabbit hole. Once you're down the data rabbit hole, like, we started
So-
there, I'm like, okay, we gotta end this meeting, we're about.
So
we have an hour and a half,
kinda,
we're just
gonna
talking.
skim through all the data. We're not gonna get too much into it because it can be a rabbit hole. So that's where we stand right now, just collecting information.
Okay, and you'll give us some follow-up when you
Yes,
get
definitely.
this organized?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Negotiations continues.
Continue.
Eternally. NET?
No updates from my last update, thanks, Tim.
Safety and security?
If I may, through the chair, I'm on the committee. We will be having a meeting in January, so.
Okay. Catherine, you're up.
So this week, starting from last Thursday, Student Council hosted, another Spirit Week. So I just wanted to tell like what each day was. So Thursday was Funky Hair / Funky Hat Day.
What?
We're trying to brainstorm like new
Funky
ideas.
hair day?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're trying to brainstorm new ideas.
Yeah, I get it, I'm just, funky hair day, funky hat day. Right on.
Friday was Twinning, which is a classic. Monday was, or today, was, throwback to your younger self. So, oh wait, that's actually yesterday, sorry.
Okay.
Monday was throwback to your younger self, so basically the idea is like you would try to dress like how you were as a young kid. Today was college day, or bring anything but a backpack day. It was very interesting because some people brought wagons, shopping carts, shoe boxes, trash cans.
Oh, that's
They would
awesome.
carry
That's
them
great.
around.
Coolers.
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 Yeah, I saw that. Coolers.
Coolers.
And tomorrow is gonna be Comfy Cozy Day or Ugly Sweater Day. So that's Spirit Week, and students always have a lot of fun for it. And tomorrow is also gonna be the variety show, which is hosted every year. It's basically like a talent show or just a fun entertainment show that students love to watch. This year it's going to be virtual though, so students will be in their advisories and they're gonna watch it through the projector, which will be interesting. And, I would prefer to watch it in virtual, but I mean online, in person. but I
sure.
honestly understand because of COVID.
Yeah.
So,
I got you.
yeah, and, the Addams Family Musicals, the production is in the works. I just heard they had callbacks on Monday, so now the roles are chosen and students.
Great.
The Addams Family?
Exciting.
Yeah, the Addams Family.
That's a play?
It's a musical.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Laura.
It's okay.
Laura.
Not offended.
I didn't know it was a play. You know that, Dr. Lepre?
No.
And, band and chorus also just had a concert last week. I heard, the band practicing actually, and it was very good. I wish I could've went in person, but I didn't get the chance to, so. And, today and tomorrow, the student council is preparing for a faculty breakfast, which is gonna be parfaits. And today I helped like scoop yogurt into cups.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we're having an assembly line, and I hope all the staff will, gladly like our production for that.
Oh,
Nice.
Of course they're
Great.
gonna love it.
Yeah. And, yeah, that's it.
it's terrific.
Great, thank you.
Agenda for the next meeting?
We will be discussing the annual report. We'll also be having the town, we'll be continuing budget with the schools presenting. And then coming up on the next meeting after that, we'll have the town come to review the general fund budget. So, that's what we've got.
Okay, just as a reminder, I won't be here for the January 4th, but I'll call in.
Anything else from the committee? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you,
Merry
yes.
Christmas.
Happy New Year.
Yeah,
These are for
that
you.
too.
These are for you to take, so.
Oh, thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Beth.
So much,
Thank
Beth.
you.
That's so thoughtful.
I didn't get one for Catherine, I should have.
Thank you so